Let me show you how to make a Hawaiian lei from egg cartons. So get an egg carton. I'm going to use a 30 count. You can use any type of egg carton you want, but cut out the little container that holds the egg. It's gonna kind of look like an ice cream cone. Each one of these containers is going to be a single flower. Next, take your scissors and cut little slits along the top edge, not going down all the way through the center because you want your flower to be intact, but make sure you have a couple different petals to work with. See, I'm gonna pull it apart. It kind of looks like a flower now. Now I like to shape my petals, so I'm going to curve along the outside edge of each. And what's really nice is it's not always going to be symmetrical, and that gives it character. So there's my first flower. Now for the lei, I'm actually going to double up my flowers. So I'm going to have a top layer and a bottom layer. That means you need 2 for each flower. That's up to you. I did 19 total on my lei, so that means you need about 38 to have the length that I did. I did even a couple extra just in case, so here they are all cut out. Now the next step is you need to poke a hole in the bottom of each. And to do that, I'm going to use one of my weeding tools. You can get these at the dollar store if you don't have a cutting machine. They make great tools to just poke little holes like this. And to make sure you don't get your finger, I found it was easier just to lay the flower flat on the table and just poke in that top edge there. Now grab your paint. It's time to paint all of the flowers. I'm going to do 4 different colors for my lei, starting with yellow. You can do whatever colors you want, but make sure you do a solid color at least on the front, and don't forget the back of each of the flowers as well, because you're going to see both sides when it's on the lei. And I'm going to do a contrasting color in the middle of my flowers. So I'm taking a darker red here. And to make it look like the petals have shading, I'm just going to brush up a little bit of the color into the centers of them as well. So I'm using a filbert brush today. You can do whatever brush you want. I'm even going to brush on a little bit of white on the top edges of my petals. And don't forget to do the backs of each of them as well. Now this is the top layer of my flower. The bottom layers, I'm not going to do the center, but I am going to do the white highlights around the top edge of the front. And don't forget the back, because you're going to see both sides on the lei. Play around with different color combinations. Like I did peach here, and then I did darker orange accents around the outside edges of the petals and red in the center. I did this over and over until I had about half of mine done, so here they are sitting and drying. For the other half, I'm going to paint them a solid white first, front and back, so that I can do more of a faded color into them. So see here I have just the plain white flower. I'm going to tap a little bit of a darker purple around the outside edge and just brush a little bit in towards the center. And once I have all of the purple around the outside edge, I'm going to grab some white and blend that in as well. It helps to do it while the paint is still wet, so you could do each petal individually. I just worked pretty fast, so all my purple was still wet when I went back to do this. Let's do blue for the centers of these purple ones. That's a pretty contrast there. You do not have to do this much detail, by the way. I am just having fun with it. You could just paint them all a solid color and be done with it, and it would still make a pretty cute lei. For my 4th color, I am going to do a hot pink though, and just do the same technique I did for the purple ones. Now I let them dry overnight. Here they are. It's time to put them on the lei. To do that, we're going to need some straws as spacers and get some metal wire. I'm using thin metal wire. It doesn't really matter what color because you're not going to see it, but wire is much easier to string them onto. I'm going to match up the top and bottom layers of each flower. You may need to poke the hole again just because you painted over it, but it's going to be much easier to poke through. And then string it onto the wire. Now, this is important. I didn't cut the wire to size. I'm keeping it on the spool just to make sure I have enough until the very end. Once you put on your first flower, then grab a straw. Those are going to be the spacers. And I cut off about 2 inches. It's up to you if you want to measure them all exactly. I'm just going to estimate right there. And string that on after the flower, something like that. They're going to be in between each individual flower, just so they stay apart on the necklace. Now I'm going to do a pattern. You can put them on in whatever order you want, but my pattern is going to be pink, orange, purple, and yellow, like that. And just keep repeating that pattern until you get the length that you want. I would keep holding it up and measuring it until you get there. Once you do get the length you want though, then you can trim the wire off so you have a couple inches on either side. Here's how to finish it off. Take the individual ends and I want you to take a spacer. Put the spacer on one end and then put the other side through the spacer so that both ends are going through the same one in opposite directions. Pull it and the necklace will come together. Then you can trim them a little bit shorter. Because it's wire, you don't really need to tie it, but what I did is I wrapped it around the wire itself just to keep it from moving on either side. And that's how you make a Hawaiian lei from egg cartons.